Hey Ben,
Hello.
what's up?
Hello, just drinking some of my coffee, man.
Nice. This is episode number 5 of actually number 4 of Mindful Marketing. And it's basically just a show where Ben and I talk about marketing, business growth, just some things we're seeing in the news, and we drink some amazing specialty coffee. So yesterday I went to Galena with my family and we got like a new specialty coffee it's like an Ethiopian medium roast. It's pretty good. I like it. Definitely used Coal Valley water to make it, so that doesn't help. But I feel like when I get normal, like good water, it'll be a lot better. So, what are you drinking?
Yeah, I'm still drinking Red Bands. I think they're whatever the one from Mexico is.
Yeah, it's like
But
Osaki or something.
yeah, something like that. I think it's like got some like cocoa or cacao flavor notes.
Yeah,
Got a little
I
bitterness.
I saw a bunch of the ones in Galena that had the flavor note juicy.
Dude, I've seen that. Like, it's so dumb.
It's like,
Like,
what does that mean? That's
oh,
hilarious.
I know. I talked to like Tori, one of our friends, and she's big into coffee and stuff. And I forget, does she usually buy black and bold or white? It's like
Oh
black and
yeah,
white,
something
black and white,
fancy.
right?
Yeah,
They have some weird flavor notes. Like,
yeah,
I forget some of the ones that her and I've talked about, but she's had me try some of that coffee, and I'm like, I have no idea what that's supposed to taste like, but okay.
yeah. I know. It's funny. So today is actually Indigenous Peoples Day. So in honor of that, wanted to show you a little picture of me and Ben and Travis with Irvin and our Naza Indigenous farmers. So a lot of you probably know that Ben and I are part owners of a Colombian coffee company called Native Root. And we partner directly with Naza Indigenous farmers down in Colombia so that we can pay them more, and we've eliminated the middlemen in the coffee production process. So we went down there last year around this time, actually,
Yeah, it was
right?
just about a year ago. Yeah, we would have left probably like almost like this week. It would have been.
Yeah, and we just went through the entire process with them, and they work dang hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work. So shout out to them. And today we're just going to go through an interesting video I saw a little bit ago and react to it. It's basically talking about remote work versus rural America. Um, so, like, what happened is when everyone started working remote, a lot of people from the cities started to just migrate into more rural towns. And there's a lot of problems associated with that because they're making these big city incomes. So they can easily have like this nice, super nice house in these rural areas. And I know there's been a lot of controversy over it, whether we're going to stay remote or whether we're going to go back into the office. And it just kind of shed some light on a side that I didn't see before. So, you ready for this, Ben?
Oh, I'm so ready, dude.
All right. You can see that, right?
Yep.
Tyler Rogers and Bella McGoldrick are living the dream. Freed from having to go into a physical office for work, they gave up their New York apartment this year and joined a migration called the Zoom Boom. Remote workers who've traded urban areas for life a little further off the grid.
Have you heard this phenomenon, of the Zoom town?
For sure. Often you'll speak to locals and they're kind of talking about like the changes that are happening, and I'm always like, oh, that's me. It is a little bit of a weird position to be in, to be like aware of what's going on and to be what is kind of the problem, I guess, in some people's eyes.
What do you hear? What do they say?
People talk about the shortage of housing for local workers. There's like a lack of rental space or place for them to own. So yeah, I think people are just afraid that this little place will just sort of change and like evolve into something they don't recognize.
It has changed my business tremendously.
It's absolutely turned my business around. I've had so many people.
was a
Nice.
good-
Property values have increased.
First of all, did you see like her artwork? Like that picture on the wall of,
Briefly, yeah,
of the can was her art. Like that was insane.
yeah.
There's some hyper realism there.
Hundreds of percent since the 90s here. Back in the day, you could get one of these houses for 60 grand probably.
And now what does something like this go for?
$1 million plus, 1.8, 2 million, something. That's huge.
That's
going for
incredible.
$1 million.
Yeah, and it's wild because you'd be like, if that was in the heart of like San Francisco, you'd be like, duh. But it's like a rural place. Everybody's just moving
Do
here.
you know where they're at? Like what town this is?
Let me see if it's in the description. Oh yeah, Crested
Oh.
Butte, Colorado.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
Dude, home prices and just building in Colorado is going insane.
yeah, and everybody's kind of retreating here because they can with their money and like their remote work now. So it's just hiking up and up.
Yeah, I do wonder though, really like how sustainable in a way it is. Well, okay, like one thing that's inadvertently a problem is obviously they mentioned the housing crisis or shortage for the local workers and stuff. But
Mhm.
the weird thing is like Crested Butte and stuff, and it's usually only short time stays. They'll like stay long term over the winter, but over the summer, but the winter they only stay for like maybe a week to go skiing or snowboarding or whatever, versus chilling in the cold the whole time.
I'm not sure because like I know that's definitely kind of like a getaway thing for people who, but I don't know. I think the whole thing is like people are just permanently moving here now because they can. In the past, they had to just get away on vacation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember because like I feel like Crested Butte is similar to like Keystone and where Jake was at, my cousin, around Dillon or Keystone County. So there's like Dillon, Breckenridge, and stuff. And I'm trying to remember the time of season that a lot of people would just kind of bounce and just not be there, which was kind of weird for Jake because I know a lot of people like throughout the winter, it's just a lot of like out of towners. Just coming in for the weekend or week to go hit the slopes and stuff.
Yeah, I
but
think
a lot of people just leave their houses sitting because I don't think they want to do it like 8 months of winter.
And I think the big mentality is like a lot of these people in the city with these large incomes but hate being in the city used to dream up and ask each other like, if you could just live anywhere, where would it be? And it'd be like Colorado because it's so beautiful. And now it's like I'm working on a computer, I can.
Yeah.
And that's been just driving up those prices.
I mean, not gonna lie, at the start of the video when they're mountain biking and I just go to the computer, I'm like, oh, that sounds nice.
I know.
Wow.
Paul Brown moved to Crested Butte in 2008.
I love how they did this bathroom. It is amazing.
He now works as a realtor, where he has a front row seat to the already tight housing market getting tighter. The flood of pandemic demand drove the median home price in Crested Butte to $1 million in 2020, an increase of 38% in just 1 year.
I mean, one of the bright sides of that is like if you owned a place, let's say you got a $500,000 place, in a few years it just doubled in value.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, it's just really screwing over like the people that were renting and stuff. And
oh yeah,
funding
the renters.
Yeah.
And there aren't that many homes to go around. Roughly 30% fewer houses were up for sale compared to last year, and long-term rentals are almost non-existent.
This is an example of a house that has tremendous flow and can accommodate a lot of people. Now, this is an example of a home that will rent for that $1,000 a night plus, just because of how gargantuan it is.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. The view is not poor, that's for sure.
Wow. That's hilarious.
That's beautiful.
View.
He
Just
said the view is not poor.
no. I would say it's far from it. Wow.
Is not poor, that's for sure. That old saying, $1 million views, you might as well call it $10 million views nowadays. So as soon as quarantine lifted last year, I would say 4 out of 5 phone calls starting in June of 2020 was, hey, I want to come live there for 3 or 4 months.
So what's happening to the people who lived here, before this influx?
Yeah, so a lot of folks are leaving the valley because they can't find a place to stay anymore. And, you can couch surf or sleep in your car only so long. And when the winter hits, it's not a viable option at all.
Remote workers aren't the only ones responsible for the crunch. Homeowners who used to rent to long-term tenants are now charging a lot more for their places as short-term rentals. And wealthy out-of-staters are buying up much of the limited inventory as second or third homes.
Who do people blame for these issues here?
Blame is spread around pretty well. The animosity is certainly going to be at the people that come to purchase here, but don't actually live here. Or the empty homes is what I think drives people more crazy than the vacations.
The fact that this is booming must be pretty good business for you.
It is. I feel like there is a fiduciary responsibility to my clients, but for every home that I take out of available inventory further exacerbates our problem.
Yeah, that that point there were like a lot of empty homes.
Yeah.
That's gotta suck. Like if you can't find a place to stay or live and there's a whole bunch of empty homes.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean that's what Jake was telling me when I visited him last time, and we were just walking around and biking around Keystone and Dillon and stuff. It's the same thing. A lot of these nice homes are just sitting empty for a lot of the year.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then if they're being rented out, they're being rented out super high. Shoot, but it's so weird because like the market, for example, if you're renting out a place and then you can charge way more all of a sudden, you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
The empty home part is weird. It's like how I watched this video recently about 80% of like skyscrapers are just like penthouses owned by billionaires as a place to store their money. Not like they actually have a bunch of money sitting in there, but they bought that real estate.
Yeah.
So that means like these huge skyscrapers, most of them are completely empty. And they're just like, they're this huge shade on the city. And like,
yeah, it's a really bizarre thing. Like I get it from an asset standpoint, because it's obviously standpoint, yeah. Because obviously they're storing their money, it's a safe place, et cetera, in a sense. But it's just weird that people just aren't using a lot of these houses or living spaces. That's really strange. And then, I mean, it makes sense from like a landlord standpoint. Well, if I can get $1,000 a day versus charging like $1,500 or $2,000 a month, like that's a huge difference. Obviously, you're making like what you would in a year in a month, if not more. So it's tough, but I mean, the amount of people that can actually afford that is pretty limited.
Yeah, and it's kind of a weird thing with acquiring physical assets like land. So land's a different story because it has potential to become anything. But like a house or like this skyscraper penthouse that's not being used at all, physical assets versus like digital assets like a stock or like crypto. The only thing is there's a lot of security in having something physical in the real world versus something that's like code on the computer.
Yeah,
but it takes up space and stuff like that. So it's interesting. But
Constant struggle because it could eventually even cost me to lose my roof over my head.
In June, the town of Crested Butte declared an affordable housing emergency. Since then, the town has put a moratorium on new short-term rentals, bought a bed and breakfast to convert into affordable housing for seasonal workers, and made it legal for people to camp and park mobile homes on private property. Now the town's considering a ballot initiative that would add a tax on second homes. But not everyone is on board.
Okay, a few rules. We'll give everybody a chance to talk. I would absolutely discourage clapping and cheering.
Wow, that whole thing just does not look very fun at all.
Doesn't look fun at all, but this guy's like real. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
A lot of politicians and stuff don't seem real.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's funny.
I do ask for civility, and with that, let's go ahead and open it up to the public. Gentleman in the back.
Just 2 years ago, I had a website full of amazing content, but I wasn't able to monetize because I wasn't getting enough traffic.
Second homeowners are your neighbors. A tax that only second homeowners pay but cannot vote on is divisive. I think there's a bit of tone that has entered the conversation that would be kind of reminiscent of the French Revolution, sort of eat the rich.
My wife and I give to 14 different charities in this community, and it would affect our donations.
Be careful on the tax. I think that there are so many generous, creative, smart, educated CEOs and people that really understand what's going on here. They want to help. Don't push them away.
Kylena Falzone owns two of the most popular restaurants on Crested Butte's main strip and employs hundreds of workers in town. Since so many of her employees can't find housing, she started renting some rooms to them and is now building new homes where her staff can live.
Everybody wants to be open 7 days a week, but it's just really difficult without the staff. And as you'll see, there's help wanted in every window. Help wanted.
Can you show me around a little bit?
Yeah, please follow me. This is our pizza line. On a busy night, we're putting out about 280 pizzas an hour. That's a sweat on his working hard. I'm gonna throw some dough. Big moment. Let's go, boys.
How do you do this?
So you make your edge. So you're gonna go around. So make your crust. That's the most important part right now, right? Is the crust. A lot of my employees live in tents, live in vans, car camp, couch surf, but that's not a really great way to thrive and to like work. We are building homes for our employees, and I could be charging minimum of $2,500 to $2,800 for those houses, but we charge $1,500 a month.
So you're subsidizing your employees to basically make it possible for them to live here.
Yes.
How do you make that work financially as a business?
Well, it really doesn't.
Is there any resentment here, among the locals towards people who have arrived recently as part of this Zoom boom?
Yes, there is, and I'm a big proponent against that. Nobody owns Crested Butte, and it should be available for many people from all over the world to enjoy.
Do you support things like putting a pause on these short-term rentals?
I have a unique perspective on that because I do have short-term rentals as well in Crested Butte. When I can rent it out to locals, I do, but when I need to make money, and not every project that we do can be philanthropic, I have to be able to make money to be able to do these types of things. When I can put locals in, I will, and then when I need to make money, I have to.
As, one of these short-term rental owners, are you part of the problem here?
Some people could say I am, but here's the other thing. If they put a short-term rental rule on my house, I will sell it because I won't be able to make the payment. I think my loan payment, it's a crazy loan. I had to buy a partner out of it. It's $5,700 a month. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I would have to charge a local $5,700.
And how much can you make on it as a short-term rental?
I can make $800 a night.
So you're easily covering your mortgage as a short-term
in a week.
Yeah, so that's basically almost the Airbnb style versus like the long-term rental style. And gosh, dang, that's a tough problem. It's a double-edged sword because like she wants to help her employees in the local businesses continue to run, but has to cover her own butt because if she doesn't, then yeah, that's really tough. And she's like, nobody owns Crested Butte. It's open for everybody to come and enjoy it. And that's exactly what the Zoom boom people are doing.
Yeah.
It's just like in all of economics and business, very complex problems with very complex solutions that sometimes are out of our hands. It's like things shake out based on nature, almost like Jordan Peterson's book with hierarchy. hierarchy is a natural process of nature. And if we try to eliminate it, we're going against nature and nature will win.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's That's crazy. She has like a $5,600 mortgage. Just
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it makes sense. Like over $1 million home. It's just wow, that's crazy. And then she's trying to rent out for like $1,500 a month, which so you're negative like $4,000 a month.
Yeah, there's just no way to do it.
So it's like I get what she's saying, where she has to, do the short-term rentals, etc., to make that up. And it's like she's trying to do good and help her community solve the problem, but it's also she has to be part of the problem to help in a way,
Right.
at least. I wonder if there's going to be like any, like obviously this is usually where like entrepreneurs step in and figure out some creative solution to this problem. I wonder if there's almost going to be like a co-work space in a way, but for these like remote workers, like kind of the Zoom boomers, whatever it is, like living in these random towns. So it's like these almost like not as skyscrapers, because they're not going to put a skyscraper in Crested Butte, right? But kind of a way to build up vertical, because they don't have much space to go horizontal, right? Out in the mountains, because then you're ruining a lot of the appeal of living in Crested Butte, is all the mountains and all the free range and etc. So I wonder if you tried to scale up a little bit and almost like kind of that penthouse type thing.
Yeah, and
like condos essentially for that purpose, and people who are interested in doing that had to look at those versus these other like houses in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, and then I think a huge part of that would be positive incentive for them to do that over just buying a home, because most of the time, like negative punishment, like excessive taxing and like rules against remote workers being in these homes doesn't end up working well in the long term, compared to just like more positive incentives to do another thing.
Yeah, positive incentives is always better for sure.
And her situation reminds me kind of like Jocko Willink will say, take extreme ownership. So one of his big things is like, if you're a subordinate, sometimes you have to just go with the flow and go through the motions as you're told, knowing that it's a little bit wrong, in order to like stay in the game and stay alive, basically in the war. And then eventually, when you are still in the game and you have some power and you have a fighting position, you can then kind of flip it and take the offense, and you can do what you feel is right. So it's almost like in her situation, she wants to do what's right. She wants to try to fix this problem, but in the meantime, she needs to stay in the game by covering her butt and renting short term and stuff like that. So it's like sometimes you have to, in the overall goodness, you have to sacrifice a little bit of that. That's a very philosophical thing right there, like almost temporarily being on the dark side for the overall good side.
You're talking about like Anakin?
Basically, yeah.
He was on the dark side a little longer, but yeah, I mean, that's just a really weird, unique problem. I mean, because it's not like the employees, they're not asking for much. I mean, most of them are living in tents or vans or couch surfing, etc. So it's like they're definitely probably more of like the free-spirited, just enjoy the nature, want to go mountain biking, snowboarding, skiing, whatever, in their free time. So it's not like the employees or the local workers are probably really asking for that insane of a ask. Essentially, all they're asking is probably for affordable housing.
Right. And that's something that I've heard a lot recently from the younger generations is we can't like buy a house. It's like I forgot, like, why do they quiet quitting? It's kind of around that. Like, why are they not working super hard? It's like a lot of people younger kind of say, like, we realize we're screwed. Like, we can't buy a house like the generations before us could. And part of me is like, based on the person, like, you don't want to buy a house. You're just kind of using that as an excuse, as like a buzz term. But then these are the kind of stories that kind of make you see the legit side of it, where if you're working, you know, you don't have this big career and you're working at a pizza place and you literally just have to live in your car.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, so I agree. I think it's for the most, so in certain situations where, I think it's incredibly hard to buy a home. Like, for instance, if you're living in Crested Butte, like, that would be super tough. And it's not like there's that much really opportunity to get like an executive role in a company. It's not like there's a lot of big business in a way there, right? So that's like kind of a tough trade-off if you want to live in some of those places. Like, obviously, like, to make a lot of money, you'll probably do more something digital, like on your computer for somebody far away. But the whole housing crisis, in a way, quotes, there we go. It's in the rest of the country, and I'm not saying like every other city, but like, for instance, we're in the Quad Cities. Homes are pretty affordable here. I think the part of that problem is, and this is a whole separate topic, is people want to purchase their dream home right away. They don't want something that's like minimalistic and that they can afford, etc. They try to like go to the top end of their budget and then some.
Right.
Because I mean, like, mortgage rates are definitely higher now. Like a year ago, they're like 2.5% or whatever. I think, I don't know, they're at 7% or something now, but they used to be at like 15% back in the day. So that's like kind of the weird thing too, is like, well, our generation will say it's like back in the day, it used to be easy to buy a home, but you're also paying like 15% interest on your mortgage.
Yeah. And like, that was the American dream. And banks were just like loaning out for homes willy-nilly. And then we know how that ended up.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, most of the time I'm like, if you really wanted to buy a house, instead of quiet quitting, you would figure something out in order to make that next jump in your career. So that's why it all comes down to personal accountability in the end. And it's like, it's on you. But there are situations like Crested Butte where it's just like super complicated. And these people we're going to see this guy actually living in his car. So
David Steffen is one of Falzone's employees at the Secret Stash. He lost his housing in June when his landlord didn't renew his lease.
So what's your living situation now?
I currently live in my truck.
Brady, you want to share your screen?
Sneakiest campsite.
Yes.
So when I had to camp, I was like, oh, I'll just come up here. Secret spot. And it's crazy because you can see the road from here, but no one has any idea you're up here.
Do you consider yourself homeless?
Sort of. I was joking the other night that by not living anywhere, I get to live in all of my friends' apartments. But, like, I don't have a home. I have a car. It's not even like it's unaffordable. Yeah, there's some places coming up that aren't affordable. But most of the time, there's nothing to rent. If there's nowhere to live, there's no one to work. And a lot of people see it, but a lot of people don't want to do anything about it. There's some food. If I don't find a place to live, I have to leave. That's just the way it is. Every single option is not here, which sucks, because I really like here.
Yeah, how does that feel that you'd have to leave?
It feels like a kick in the teeth. The town's on a treadmill right now, and it's just maxed out, and I don't know how long it can stay at this pace before just falling off.
I mean, the interesting thing with this dude, it's like he's not unwilling to pay for rent. There's just not an option for him to rent. 'Cause, I mean, the bro has a nice truck, and I'm pretty sure both those mountain bikes were carbon fiber.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's totally fine with paying for stuff and paying to rent someplace, but that's crazy. There's just not really an option.
Yes, I know. It is wild. It's like a whole different question of how do we get more housing in here? And it's wild. So overall, how do we feel about remote work versus like in office style, how it used to be? Basically, it's like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. The world definitely changed the business world through the pandemic. And a lot of businesses are saying we're staying remote.
Yeah. Definitely see it as becoming a lot like very hybridy of like you can stay remote, but we'll have you coming in the office some days. But I mean, there's some, I don't know, it's kind of tough because like for me, like I'm kind of like an adventurer, wanderluster type person. So like the idea of being able to just take my computer and work in Central America or Southeast Asia or whatever for, you know, a few weeks or a month or something sounds very appealing to me.
Yeah. But then I feel like you're even more of a extroverted people person type, to the point where there would be a little less fulfillment in going and like doing something on your laptop around a bunch of people you don't know in a different country, even though it's a cool country, versus being around a bunch of people like grinding together, going towards a common goal.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely 100%. I agree with that because it's just, I mean, when I was working remote for a company and stuff, like I never felt like I connected with the team because I was like onboarded essentially during the pandemic. So it's all 100% remote. So I've never met my coworkers like ever. I met like one, my boss, and then maybe one after, right when we went full time with this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's got its pluses and minuses. Like, I think the remote work does have a place just because it can save people a lot of money, like employees with gas, with finding babysitters or pet sitters, etc. And it treats more like people's lives outside of work. It almost like respects it a little bit more in a way, because it's not like all work. And granted, it can be tough too sometimes since you're not in an office. When's that cutoff time? That's kind of a hard personal thing to kind of get used to. But you're 100% right with the camaraderie. It's tough, but I think that's why a lot of companies are starting to do like some like trips and things like that. The ones that can to have like, or like a drinking night or something like that with all their employees to boost some of that camaraderie and get some of that buy-in to their culture, to their mission, their vision, etc. But yeah, I mean, that's tough because I think you have multiple types of employees, ones that still like to be in the office because it's more motivating for them. But also it's like you should reward the ones that can still do all the work and still do really good work from remote.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. I think because like some days we'll work remote. So if I have to get a lot done, technically, like specifically on the computer, like I have these dual monitors here. I have my computer in. I'm not commuting. I'm not taking a whole bunch of time, hours out of my day to drive to different places, and there's no task switching. And you can just seriously get some output. But then there's some days where I'm like, I need to just be around people.
Yeah.
And like, I just get so bored up in here, like in my place. And it's like, so I kind of like the idea of, as a boss, like your job as an employee is to kind of create output that can drive the company forward. As long as you do that, we can have a space for you. You can come in some days, you can work remote some days, have that freedom component. The only tough part about that as a boss is making sure that you are justifying the overhead cost of that location with people actually coming there, so that you kind of like the average of people who are there on a daily basis is worth it. Because you don't want that just sitting empty. And that's why a lot of companies, the bigger companies, have just said fully remote now, because they're like, we can get it all done without these massive buildings and overhead. But as far as like just trying to squeeze every little last drop out of your employees, you'll do that if you just take care of them, not if you like are trying to optimize their work time at home versus their work time in the office. Like, you take care of them. So my biggest output will be if I choose the days that I'm locking in on my computers, and then I choose the days where I'm like going and working with other people, instead of just someone telling me like, today you gotta be at home all day, tomorrow you're all coming in. And then meetings, of course, are usually way better in person.
I mean, I think it's a big thing of, it's similar to like physical fitness in a way. So like having a super structured program isn't the best, because there's a lot of days you can't hit certain lifts or hit certain weights because your body just isn't feeling it, where you need to listen to it, where you need some rest, or you're ready to work hard. And it's similar to having structured days in the office or out of the office, as maybe one of your days that you need to be around people, you're supposed to be remote, or vice versa. So it's kind of that freedom factor would be pretty nice.
Yeah. That's why I think like co-work spaces are super cool. Even if you, as a company, rent out a super large portion of a co-work space, or maybe even make your own little co-work space instead of the traditional cubicle style. Because nothing on earth sounds worse to me than being in a cubicle.
Literally,
in a closet all
when
day.
you asked me like, what do I think of the remote versus an office stuff, I immediately thought of like a cubicle, and I'm like,
fluorescent lights.
Oh my God.
A water cooler.
It's like, that's a big thing of where people would probably be more motivated to come work in office if it's more like a co-work space. Like, it's funny when like my buddy Matt and I will like go to his bank, US Bank or whatever, and not completely knocking on US Bank, but holy cow, is it depressing when you walk in there. It's, you know, like kind of cubicle in the back office, these little offices to the left and right of it, no music, no plants, just quiet as day. And I'm like, this is like, I bet they would have less complaints just in general if it was a friendlier environment. But wow.
Possibly. Right. Yeah. And that's a huge talking point for young people about like where they work and stuff, is like, if you're going to spend so much time at this place, so much of your life, you want it to be enjoyable. Like, I'm a big proponent of like a good environment. It just brightens your mood. And yeah, just sitting in like a little cramped space like that with fluorescent lights sounds terrible. So there's definitely a lot of pros and cons to remote work. I definitely like the idea also of being able to travel 100%. But I also know that I've seen a lot of videos of like those travelers who go in their vans and just live in different places all the time. And after like a year, they'll say like, gosh dang, I just miss like community and having like all these places are cool, but
Yep.
I can go visit them for like a week or two, but
Yep.
come back to like a home and a community. And
Yeah, the stability factor is nice. Like my friend Gabby, she's been bouncing around quite a bit just with medical school. Like she was just in Arizona for like a year or two, and now she's in Evanston, Illinois for her residency or whatever it is. And then she might have to bounce somewhere else because she's thinking about going niche in like cardiology or whatever, something, cardiovascular medicine or whatever. And she like mentioned to me the other day, it's like the biggest thing that she just kind of wants is like just a home, like stability, like that she can kind of rely on in that consistent manner.
Yeah. And I feel like society kind of swings in a pendulum, well, with everything, but with the living like in a home. And because there was a long time there where you were just like in the office working day in, day out, and then people a lot of the time started romanticizing the van life, the entrepreneur life, the free spirit life. And then now young people are starting to talk about homes again. Like,
yeah,
everybody's like, you didn't care about that. And now they're like, we want that. So
yeah,
pendulums. Yeah. I think that's about it, right?
Yep.
Cool. That was an interesting little video. Cool little talk. So everybody, we have an awesome newsletter. We actually just sent out the first one this last week, and it's called Mindful Marketing. So we basically just try to help keep marketers calm, sharp, and focused. So every Saturday, we'll give you some kind of fun, lighthearted story or an actionable tip that can help you just refocus on what matters. One of the biggest things we've learned as entrepreneurs is you spend less time just doing, and a little more time thinking about the right thing to do, basically the right lever to pull. And yeah, so if you want to subscribe to that newsletter, check out the link below. And then if you're a business owner or a marketer, you've probably heard or said this phrase many times. I have no problem spending money on marketing if it works. And that is the holy grail, finding something that works. But how do you do that? Well, you either do it through magic, which I don't believe any of us have, or you do it through the 4 T's, which is target, tailor, test, and track. And we at FitQuest have developed a system to create up to 10,000 landing pages in the snap of a finger. So you can see over on the right-hand side, this could be very useful for ad campaigns. If you want to test different creative on your landing page, it can be also very useful for just building landing pages really fast using company information like your products, your logos, benefits, features, all kinds of stuff like that. You no longer have to go through this big design and development process for every single page. And then once we send ads to those pages, we can start to gather data to see what's actually working. So at FitQuest, we like to start out with those kind of CPC, CPL metrics, a little more of those vanity metrics to get a lot of traffic, so that we can then transfer into the more profitability metrics like ROAS and LTV to CAC ratios. So we're basically just trying to find the most profitable formulas. And the best part about all this is that we're a performance-based company. So if we don't make you money, then we work for free. And Ben and I basically do that because we're competitive people. We played sports our entire life, and we just like to take ownership in what we're doing. And we think it gives us a lot more skin in the game to figure out what's working. Anything you want to add there, Ben?
No, not really. Covered it. Great job.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on Wednesday.